Hello and welcome to the May 23rd live stream of Ops Oops Origami. Thank you for joining us. Zero.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
All donut hole.
Mm-hmm. That's all right. I don't think the counter is actually accurate all the time because sometimes when I go back and look, it's different than what is actually shown there. So, whatever.
Well, as we have learned, and as we know, just the name of our channel is Three Donut Holes. So
It is. So it would be appropriate to have a
Yep.
goose egg of people watching.
Absolutely. It's like my bowling score.
0.
Zero,
impressively
zero,
bad.
zero. You gotta try. You gotta try to be that bad.
How's everyone's week been?
All 8 hours of it.
Well,
you know.
the previous the week, the 6 days since we were on last. How is that?
Reasonably good. You know, I could complain, but nobody wants to hear that. Actually, given the forum, people actually might want to hear that.
Yeah, this is basically group therapy, only cheaper. I mean, not much cheaper, but
yeah, cheaper. Not much cheaper. Yeah, a lot less coffee too.
Yeah. Depends who's paying, but
yeah.
So
it is expensive.
Yeah. I no, the week was all right. Keep solving problems and hoping that they stay solved.
Yeah,
that's how I sum up my week. Some of my last week. How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, about the same.
Fair enough.
Keeping the boat afloat.
Keeping the boat floating, at least the best I can. Yeah. Perspective.
Yep. We got the
giving people vision and perspective.
What a gift to give.
What a
gift to give.
Yes.
You're a generous man. So yeah.
So one of the things I've seen in the previous week or that I thought might be interesting to talk about is the XY problem. How you guys familiar with it? Oh, you got stuff all queued up and ready to go. Holy crap.
I did a thing. Check this out. It's going to be even better.
Boy. Oh.
Ooh.
Or maybe not. Maybe we won't do that.
What's going on there? Did you turn on the chat overlay?
I did
have another. We got one more joining us.
Oh.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello.
What's up?
Long time no see.
Yeah. At least you guys are famous with your podcast stream, YouTube thing.
Worldwide.
Hey, Chris.
Yep, anyone, anywhere in the world. So, Jesse, you're not familiar with Tony. He is a former co-worker. Back at a, former place, obviously. He's now a big shot.
Places. I'm no big shot.
Yeah.
I just got lucky.
So the thing we were going to talk about tonight is the XY problem, which is actually something you're probably also familiar with, even if you didn't know the name for it. It's basically when someone, let's say a user comes, you don't really deal with users, but most people do. It could be a user, it could be a colleague, whatever. Instead of coming to you with help solving their problem, they'll have a partial solution that they want help with. But they may not actually know where they're headed, or their path to where they wanted to go may be faulty. So instead of this is what I want to accomplish, they'll say, well, I need to do this one little thing because they think that that's the key for them being able to accomplish their goal. Whereas maybe if they brought you the full problem, you'd be able to say, well, wait a second, maybe if you did it this way, it would be much better.
Like,
So,
for
we'll just
example,
throw up a link that's kind of a description.
when somebody comes to you and says, so I think there might be something wrong with the network. And you go, oh, well, let me look into that. And then you go, no, nothing wrong with the network. Huh, that's really weird. I could have sworn it was going to be the network. Well, why is that? Well, the doors won't unlock. Okay. That's the problem is the doors won't unlock. Turns out not the network.
Unless it's Facebook.
And it truly is the network.
Hey, at that point, it wasn't the network's fault that the doors wouldn't unlock.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all seen it multiple times where another business unit or another team wants something very specific because they think that's going to accomplish a goal. But sometimes it's just completely misguided what they're asking for. And they don't realize it yet. And you don't realize it yet. So you're wasting time trying to fix what you think was what they wanted when that really isn't it.
The wisest among us can see that coming.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm the wisest among us, but
I think it boils down to, like, the wisest among us can. I don't know that we always see it, right? But the wisest learn to ask good questions at the gate, right? If you start with a thing like, oh, I think there's something wrong with the network, and your first question is, oh, is the internet performing well? That's probably not the best question to expand the question, to get to the problem. Maybe something like, huh, why do you say that? Like, give me those leading questions, or those questions that help end users get away from their preconceived solution, and back to the problem. And I, like you, Jesse, I do not claim to be the wisest among us. I've just had those types of questions used very well on me when I have been the awful end user. Because I've totally been that guy.
Yeah, well, we've probably also done it as well. We think we know what we want.
Right.
And voice that poorly to another team. Maybe we need a data spun up for something or another, or we may not even know. So, I mean, we as well have to, when talking to other teams that are doing different jobs, different roles, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm getting held up. This is the problem I'm having. Let's talk about what I'm trying to do and see what a better solution is. Because sometimes we may be trying to do something really stupid, and other teams have different experiences and different specialties.
Just post that link.
Smart questions.
Yeah.
There's like it's for like a lot of the Linux based apps, or even Unix, whatever it is. The IRC help channels, they're really strict about this. So you have to ask questions correctly.
Ask good questions. Oh, we just double posted. Oops.
Yeah.
Ask good questions. Because
like,
otherwise people...
Yeah, you just get a lot of RTFMs if you don't ask good questions.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you try? What's your end goal? What have you tried so far? What have been your troubleshooting steps? Because you may be asking for something stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There is a component to solving the XY problem that goes beyond just getting your end users to ask good questions. It's tailoring your response in a way that gets them to give you more details, right? Like, if your first response is RTFM, you're probably not going to get a lot of more information out of them. unless they're like super engaged and desperate. In fact, that's one of my it's one of my biggest pet peeves in online posts where, like, I understand that you're irritated by seeing the same question asked over and over and over in the forums that you attend every day, right? But when your knee-jerk reaction is like, yeah, asked and answered, or RTFM, or what have you, you're not doing anybody any favors. If they were gonna read, they're gonna read the manual, they already would
We're gonna
have.
search the forums that they're already in for the answer, which has been already explained 100 times. Well, that's the thing. I mean, maybe they, everybody thinks they have a unique problem. Most of the time, that is not true. And most of the time, read the fucking manual or search the forum or the news groups or whatever, because it's already been answered, is the valid answer. Maybe it's
Sure.
not the nice one, but it is a valid one.
Um,
Now, if somebody really does think that their situation is unique, well, they should be able to verbalize that. They should say, hey, I searched, I found a couple of solutions that just don't work for me. This is what I tried. This is what didn't work. This maybe showed some progress. If you come at it like that, people will be like, oh, maybe this is a different problem. Then they actually are the a-hole for saying, well, just search the forum. It's already been answered. Well,
Right.
maybe it hasn't been. Maybe they did search and maybe they did try everything. Maybe they read the manual, but it didn't have what they were exactly looking for. But they need to
need to
express
articulate
that
a little better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say that the people that respond in forums with, I think this is the answer to your question, and link to, a previous forum post or what have you.
That can be helpful.
Yeah, I think that's like, that doesn't ring as awful to me. Like, that person did the work of going out, finding the post that they were going to reference and provided it as a resource. Like, essentially, they went ahead and Googled that for you, but without doing it, super nasty. And then
Ooh.
sometimes that sparks further conversation, right? Like, you get more info out of a person that's like, okay, I read that and that didn't answer my question in this way. Very much a dialogue, but again, how do you ask the question right? How do you avoid that XY problem? And I think one of the things that, Brian, you're kind of pointing out is provide more information. Don't just say, here's what I want. Say, here's what I want, and here's why I want it. And then be open to answers that aren't like, here's how you do what you want.
Well, and yeah, and that's when you're the person asking the question. But the same thing goes, whoever is asking the question that's not you, your internal
Right.
or external customer, you need to be able to guide them to asking the right questions, giving the right information. And that's all part of just gathering good information for, say, a project or whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, I've spent a fair amount of time doing end user support in a variety of roles, and the amount of time I spent getting users to give me information that they didn't know they had, but I was confident that they did, was way longer than the time I spent actually helping them solve their problem. Right.
And that's always the case, especially like coming from the network security firewall. People will say, hey, this doesn't work. Well, what is that? It's some goofy name you use for whatever system that you're accessing. What are you actually trying to do? Where well, first off, where the hell are you at? Are you at home? Are you at work? What office are you in? What are you trying to access precisely? How are you doing it? Have you done this before successfully? they don't know to give that information up front.
Right.
I mean, and that's something that could easily be captured, like with a ticketing system.
Yeah.
As long as
although,
people aren't allowed to just like click through and just open a dumbass ticket with no information, because
And-
that's a problem too.
I mean, I'm gonna wear the end user hat, right? And say the last thing you want to do to an end user is prevent them from opening a ticket. You can, it's the old, you can lead a horse to water thing,
Yeah.
right? You can provide them the framework, but if you demand that they drink in a specific way, they can totally just not drink. And then, you know who's left holding the bag? It's not them.
Yeah. Well, and this is also a know your audience kind of thing,
Right.
because
Like
there's there's Mary in accounting that doesn't know shit about shit. She's 84 years old, and but then there's like colleagues that should
Sure.
know better.
Right. And particularly when you're
XYZ
talking about
doesn't
it.
work.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you mean doesn't work?
Well, and when you're talking about like escalations in particular, like one of the first things you need to learn when you're in entry level or second tier, whatever level you're at, is how to provide good information to the support tiers that you're going to pass on to. Right. You may not get all of it right first time out, but man, you got to provide what you can in a way that's useful to them. Also, don't provide them a novel, because nobody wants to read that.
Unless it's all useful information.
Fair enough.
If there is a significant amount of background information that needs to be conveyed, by all means, write that novel if you have to.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I agree, that is probably rarely the case.
Yeah, I mean, the number of times where it's like, you know, network problems. Tried to ping Google, didn't work. Right? Like, oh, okay. Turns out the problem
the
is the
internet's
salesperson
down.
in the hotel couldn't get to Party Poker on their personal laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, fun story. I have nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Or internet's down. Well, what are you trying to get to? TikTok. Oh, and you're getting the block message? Yeah. Internet's just fine.
Turns out working as designed.
Yeah, we're working as designed.
So yeah, for all of our tremendously high viewer count, what have your experiences been with the XY problem?
Oh, who are you talking to?
I see that we have one viewer. Maybe not.
Oh.
It could be a lie.
It can sometimes be fandom, and it can sometimes be higher than that. It's tough to tell.
Well, it's exciting.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Let's we've got Tony here. Tony, tell us about your fun day to day in your current job.
Well, I guess since we've parted ways, I am not a cloud engineer anymore.
Protocol engineer now.
A protocol engineer. Whoops.
Yeah,
Hold on. Let me
I'm a
fix it.
software engineer now. Sorry.
Oh,
Basically,
software
yeah.
engineer.
Technically, yeah, I went more of the development side of things. I know Brian mentioned when we were talking about things that you would be happy to discuss Kubernetes.
Oh yeah.
We're a 100% Kubernetes shop, so we actually don't have anything that's not in Kubernetes right now. So
So what do you guys use for? Here, I fixed it. Oh, not that one. There we go. Sorry. having too much fun with it today. What do you guys use to create your containers in Kubernetes? Obviously, orchestration is Kubernetes, but what's your containerization, essentially development platform? Like Docker, or are you?
Yeah, I guess Docker. I don't know what we use as an actual engine inside of our Kubernetes, like containerization engine. We are COPS and whatever Google's is, GKE. So we're a mixture. We're in those two clouds, but yeah, I don't know what we use on the backend. We use Docker, I guess, of course, just locally.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, containerization engine, no idea.
Okay, so walk us through a day, a day or a minute or an hour of your life in that fully containerized world. Like what's your software focus, and how do you get your software out into a functional container or set of containers?
Pod.
Yeah. I mean, I could use that word, but not everybody knows it. I don't work with it often enough for it to be a useful. It's not right at my fingertips. I totally know what it is, but
no, it's a whole different beast when you
It
start
is.
working in Kubernetes. So we deploy different. I don't want to phrase this. We deploy different customer resources in our Kubernetes environments that run different types of nodes. So there's all sorts of different types of nodes that customers can choose to run inside of our environment. From the developer side, we develop what we call workflows, and that's essentially like the customization and templating engine that we use to customize different Kubernetes deployments. And then we use Helm. So we do Helm templating to insert those essentially like workflows and value files into the Helm templates to customize them. We apply the Helm with Terraform through a custom executor engine that monitors, I guess, the Terraform as it's being applied. If there's anything wrong with it, it attempts to either fix it or just say that this deployment failed, and then that is marked in like the database as failed, upgraded, deployed successfully, you name it. So my day-to-day would mostly just be either onboarding new types of nodes or new types of software that customers can run into our environment, or adding on to the current ones.
Okay.
So there's always work to do in automation. Get an alert a couple times a week that's automated out and figure out how we don't have to ever see that alert again.
Yeah.
So I assume that based on what you're saying, and that based on how what you're working with, that you guys are pretty much a full-on DevOps like shop. Would you say that you guys are like a full-on SRE shop, where you've got a really core ops infrastructure component to your DevOps on the ops side?
Yeah, we actually didn't have SREs up until about like 5 months ago. So
Okay.
we are essentially our own SREs, and just having like the knowledge of whatever type of node or network we were running for a customer. That's be the ones designing like the Prometheus metrics and alerting around that. But yeah, now we have the SRE team, and it's fantastic. You just shoot them a couple metrics and they figure it out for us. DevOps wise, yeah, SOC compliant, SOC 2 is coming at us really hard. So that's going to separate anybody who makes the code to actually being able to deploy it into like production or any of our systems. That's the biggest change. So like me as a software developer, I can't actually push the button to deploy anything or to actually put it in to our production systems. So yeah, that will be fully automated eventually.
Okay.
Right now, it kind of is. You can make it fully automated, but semi-new.
Okay. So is that if you're going full automation, I assume that there'll be some kind of check in there from some second party that needs to, like from your sec group or your compliance group or something like that.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll have the separation duties,
Okay.
create code or changes, and then there is a team that actually approves the changes.
Sure.
Once the changes are approved, then they go and hit the pipeline and do some cool things. Guess I can spill the beans. We're using a stripped down, hacked version of Concourse as our pipeline automation.
Okay.
We've actually got it down to a point where like you make a value YAML file and the entire concourse will just pull through. It'll make Docker images, publish them, update different workflows with versions. It'll actually monitor different GitHub repos, GitLab repos for new releases and go through and publish new images, do testing, do smoke testing daily, publish reporting. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And
Okay.
that's all fairly new, so it's like just iteration right now.
Right. Do you ever get involved in the development of the test suite that does those daily, tests and QA passes?
Yep, that's actually like I'm working on one of them now for a new network that I am onboarding, and it's completely different than anything else we've done before. But other ways that like other people have done it is they'll spin up 3 or 4 different nodes using like fake test values into those home charts, and then create some sort of like a private environment and look for, I don't know, some sort of metric that shows that this private network is working with these test values, so that new version of software that was just released is good to go.
Right.
Yeah, it's we're gonna be like fully test driven after that.
Cool.
So just from like a background, we were a year ago we were 50 people at the company. Now we're like 180. So we've hired like 100 engineers in the past year.
Oof.
Talk about XY problem with onboarding new engineers.
Yeah, I mean,
what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got culture shift problems. You've got like just from an onboarding standpoint, you think what it takes to actually onboard somebody usefully. Like my estimation is you have one of your seasoned FTEs to onboard somebody adequately. You need to spend about 25 to 35% of an FTE for the first 2 months of that employee, right? If you do the math on that growth rate, you like theoretically your original 50 FTEs are basically tapped out and not getting anything else done if they're doing the job well.
Yep, and that's really what it's been my past year.
So how many of the people engineers are? Oh,
go ahead.
How many of the new engineers are coming from the same industry, where they have a good base of knowledge versus they're just a DevOps person and they got hired or whatever?
None of them.
None of them. Yeah, see, that's a challenge too.
Yeah, like my role is, since we are working with like software, like node software, essentially, like my job is kind of putting like training wheels on unruly software that is out there and then making that work for our company. And so it's like twofold, where I'm doing some infrastructure just because that's the type of software we're essentially working with and trying to make run, is more of like an infrastructure type. And then there's also like the software development to make, I don't know, odds and ends work and different monitoring, different tooling, all of that work. Nobody has that skill set. So you either get like the full on dev that's like what is infrastructure, like what is a network, what is an IP address, or you get like the really hardcore infrastructure guy who's like, I've never touched code in my life. And they will get like a simple JSON file and they're like, I don't know how to make that. And you're like, oh Lord, here it comes. So that's been the real big struggle, is that like we're a melding of those two type of like, I don't know, backgrounds, and nobody has it. So you're teaching them one or the other. It's been fun, I guess. Like Chris was saying, we literally for the past like year it's just been helping out and being like that knowledge center essentially.
Yeah.
Onboarding people, answering questions, making things better. Someone brings up a question 2-3 times and you're like, all right, nobody understands this. How can I make that better? How
Right.
can it work better?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing a lot of that in like my last 3 or 4 years of yeah, I'm doing some of my own build or development, you know, call it what you want. If you're if you're a developer, it's development. If you're an infrastructure person, it's a build, right? Um, but regardless, you do some of that, but you do a lot of um, education, like teaching infrastructure people, hey, the JSON looks intimidating, but it's just a config file, man, with really specific formatting.
There's
And
actually a
then,
lot of overlap with what Tony's doing and kind of what you've been doing. I mean, you're basically taking somebody else's code, somebody else's thing that does a thing. Now you have to put all the bits around the outside to make sure it behaves, to make sure you can scale it, you can deploy it, you can pull it back, you can do everything you need to do it, and make it an actual useful, not product, but something that can play nice with everything else and behave. Because when they wrote it, it's a dev on his dev machine. It's real easy to make anything run however you want it to run, because you
right.
can do all the dumb things that you really shouldn't be doing. Now you want to run that at scale. There's a lot of bits that go
It,
on in the background and in between everything, and that's
it,
kind of the stuff, as far as I understand it, that
oh, yeah.
Tony's doing.
Yep.
Let's take that blob and turn it into an actual thing that we can make useful.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that I've learned over the last several years. You know, you start out in infrastructure and you get this monolithic thing like the code, right? And it doesn't, as infrastructure people, we think about scale and performance all the time. Like it's our whole job. As ops people, like end user experience and performance and like reliability are what we do. Um, and until you really start to spend a lot of time with developers, you don't really develop the understanding that like that isn't what they do. They create things that work, right? Um, it's not necessarily in their vocabulary to say, okay, this works at this scale. How do I make it work at this larger scale? I've
And
totally had the conversation. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and sometimes it's really difficult for them to understand that the solution maybe isn't just throwing resources at it, because what works for them and their scaling, there are a subset of developers that very much have that in their mind.
Yep.
They know that this is scaled to 1,000 nodes, and they're going to microservice everything, and everything's going to be all split up. Everything's going to be able to scale horizontally, basically infinitely.
Right.
That's few and far between. Most of them, it's, well, just throw more memory at it, and it'll go faster. Throw more CPUs at it, it'll go faster. That's not necessarily reality when it comes to actually deploying this somewhere.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes that's the right solution, right? Like if it's in a world where you can say, yeah, I can double your memory once every 6 months for the next 3 years without any issue. And we know that your system just is going to respond to having more memory. Well, fine. We just saved everybody like 80 hours. Those are expensive hours, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, the memory has a cost, but in general, if it's like a hard developer problem versus a simple infrastructure problem, the infrastructure is frequently cheaper. But
if plausible.
you definitely have those things where the hardware is a constraint, and you're kicking the edges as it is, and it's super easy to anticipate that you're gonna hit a wall and not gonna be able to go any further. And the conversations with the developers about like, okay, yeah, I know I can give you more now, but you have to start working on this now so that in 6 months when we hit that wall, you've got something in place. The interesting thing to me in the last, couple of years is the developers that kind of get infrastructure a little bit, particularly like the infrastructure as code aspects, that will develop a solution, and then they'll hand it to me as an old school infrastructure guy, and I will wrap it in as many ways to make it more flexible and modular as possible. And they'll look at me and go, "Why are you making it so complex?" And I'll say, "Because it really sucks to have to develop this under the gun."
Because in the future, you'll be asking me to do this.
Right.
Yeah, in 6 months, when you ask me to completely change how something works, I'm putting in the flexibility to do it.
Right.
The good thing
Or you
about
built this to run in one data center, now you want it to run in all of them.
hey, that's not hard. Kubernetes. Just throwing that out there. Just
It
a
isn't.
plug of
I mean,
Kubernetes.
I'm not like, I've had a passing couple of experiences with containerization and with Kubernetes. Enough so that like I understand that it is not a trivial problem to get there. At the same time, that flexibility in data center, in cloud provider, like, yeah, your underlying orchestration layer is going to be different. Google does Kubernetes a little different than Azure does, than AWS, than Oracle, than your homegrown variety, whatever it might be. But those things are like, they've been solved, right? So they're totally solvable. The ability to take your container and run it wherever you want, whenever you want, is super powerful. Like, I've had this conversation with some of the managers where I'm at now. Like, if nothing else, being able to say to your vendor, "Give me better pricing or I'm going somewhere else," and them not being able to say, "Well, good luck." Like, "Hey man, I'm containerized."
Or when they say good luck, be like, "Oh yeah, we're completely containerized. I could have it moved this afternoon and nobody would even notice,
like,
except for you."
In
Because
fact,
the would dry up.
it's spinning up now.
Mm-hmm.
And like, contract negotiation
The
ends
longer
tomorrow.
you talk, the more workload is being shifted off of your platform.
Right. The longer you talk, the more you have to give me.
So we have it is a lot to get there. We have a guy who is a regular contributor to the Kubernetes repos on open source like code, and he's one of the inventors of Helm, which he's one of those people that like you talk to and he's that little bit more, like someone's smart in something and then he's just that little bit more that you just like, wow, you know a lot. Like Brian with BGP or networking, he like just that extra little bit that you're like, okay, to know that, like, you really have to know your stuff.
That deep nuance. Right?
Yeah, and we have him to show the ease of Kubernetes. So I'm onboarding a new type of something or other node to our platform, and I moved it from our AWS environment to a GCP environment just to test that it worked in GCP as well. It took 30 seconds for it to migrate from A to B and be up and running. And like, we're talking storage and everything. Just here you go. You work over here now, and once you get there, it you're pretty good. But yeah, we have thousands of nodes, tens of thousands of EC2 instances or GCP instances. I don't know what they're called in GCP actually, but tens of thousands of them that like they just spin up. It's awesome. You just don't have to worry about.
At the end of the day, they're all they're containers in pods, right? And in all instances, containers run in pods, and pods run on hosts.
Pods run on nodes, which are hosts. So
right,
the node gets provisioned in your Kubernetes cluster.
Right.
And it gets the kubelet and a couple other things on it, but then it can be controlled by Kubernetes, and then it becomes part of like that resource pool that Kubernetes can schedule pods or deployments or cron jobs, you name it, onto that node.
What's interesting to me about Kubernetes and containerization in general is just how abstract everything gets. Like everything has been separated out and compartmentalized, right? Like even the networking stacks effectively are their own little containers. And you all just like you're taking little tiny globs of stuff and sticking them together, which previously we've let our manufacturers and our vendors do for us, and now we're doing it ourselves.
Well, and before everyone had their own secret sauce that comprised that. Now it's fully in our hands. And if there was ever a perfect use case for containerization, especially if you're going like all of the clouds, it's you guys. So yeah,
making virtual beef jerky.
All of them. Yes.
We told Azure to go and pound sand. So there was
told Azure.
Yeah, there was a
good.
Works, and it was like, okay, Azure is too abstract. It doesn't work. And this is actually funny because like Azure had too many quirks that made the transition to it and putting it into like our Kubernetes environment way too nuanced, and like too many changes had to happen. GCP versus AWS is there are some, but it's like storage. You have your node pools, which are like I don't know what they call them in GCP. Like these are EC2s, like whatever the machine size of an EC2 is in GCP. You like have to name those, but the rest of it is very, very one-to-one, which is good.
Yeah, it seems like GCP, they kind of stole all the good ideas from AWS and left the bad ones behind. Granted, there aren't that many bad. The more I've used AWS, the more I appreciate it, even with some of the flaws. But I also like GCP for many of the same reasons. Azure, though, is always the redhead stepchild. You're like, oh, well, we can do that better. We'll do it the Microsoft way.
They're always trying to. I mean, they're always trying to make it. In some ways, they're trying to dumb it down, right? And in other ways, they're trying to make it more complex for their consulting ecosystem.
Yeah, well,
and
they're trying to drive people into higher billing tiers.
Sure. I will tell you,
we have a higher SKU that does exactly what you want. You just need to upgrade. You get that next, the plus version of what it does all the things you want.
Yeah, join our
then
premier
2 months later,
program.
You need the platinum version
access.
now.
Yeah.
Yes, it's early access.
Right.
We'll give it to you for a cut rate price for the first 3 months until you're locked in.
So I will say that I believe that GCP didn't steal all the good things from AWS. I believe that GCP took their homegrown Kubernetes solution and rolled it out with very few massages for public consumption, because that's what they've done with every part of their cloud so far. Like their internal the instrumentation platform that they have for GCP that's what they use internally. So The way you consume it is how the rest of their teams consume it. So all the frustrations you've gone through, some GCP employee has gone through too, and is actively advocating for it to get better. Which is why it changes as often as it does, but it's also why it's like at its core most of the GCP offerings. And yes, I am a little bit of a fanboy for the GCP, but most of the offerings are pretty nimble, pretty tight offerings.
I haven't actually looked at either of the dashboards in like a year. Not gonna lie. I haven't logged
You make your own.
in.
Making them Helm charts all by yourself.
All alone. My own little dark dank apartment.
So when you're writing
pupper.
software, are you like you come from a networking and systems background?
Mhm.
Are you doing like that systems, like system software borderline development, or have you gone fully into like solutioning development?
No, I'm not like writing code all day long. And that, I guess, to go back, that's like one of the problems with my job and like training someone new, is it is at this perfect intersection of like, I sit in YAML files all day long, and it sucks. But like YAML is like
YAML.
I know, and there isn't like too much code generation. I guess like today I wrote some TypeScript. Last week I wrote some Go. Today or yesterday or whatever, last week I wrote some JSON. Like there's so many different like languages that I use, but I'm not sitting there just pounding out lines of code all day long. And I've seen that struggle on people where it's like, well, that's what I was used to. I'm used to just knocking out PR after PR of like, made a new file, made a new whatever. And they're like, oh, we don't do that anymore. I am lost. So
Right.
that's like I'm definitely at that point where I do use my assistant background, like server background, because that does play a giant role and it helps. But yeah, I'm in the CLI and VS Code pretty much all day long.
Okay, that's interesting. So again, Microsoft's best products are the free ones. I've seen VS Code start to be pretty prevalent in the industry. It is a tight tool.
Mm-hmm. It's really
nimble,
good.
yeah, and free.
Yeah, and like I have Golang, which is like the Golang JetBrains IDE. I have it, but I context switch so much that like I'm not going to do TypeScript in that Golang thing. I think I can. I don't really know, but like if I'm knocking out some Golang, like a pretty big project, I'll open up Golang. But for the most part, there's so many different files. Like you open up one repo for something I'm doing, and I have TypeScript, Golang, JSON for like templating. I have YAML, Helm. That's just like there's probably other stuff that could be flopping around too. Bash, of course, just some shell scripting, and like just there's so many different types of files that I don't know. I feel more comfortable in VS Code, I guess.
Sure. And I'm going to bring us back for all you people watching right now that are dyed in the wool ops people going, why are we talking about development? I'm going to pull out my crystal
guess
ball.
what you're going to be doing in 5 to 10 years,
Correct.
whether you want to or not.
The industry is moving there. We're not, on the whole, if you're an ops person in 5 to 10 years, you will not be plugging in hardware. You're going to be working in some kind of abstracted infrastructure as code language. You may not be learning Go, right? But man, you'd better be able to read a JSON file. And you'd better be comfortable with like how many spaces you need in YAML to make sure you've declared where you're at.
Yeah, and that was actually the driver, Chris. So I saw that little light coming up
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago. I started learning how to program on my own, just JavaScript, Python, whatever. Got that cloud job at some cloud company doing cloud things, and we did Terraform conversion of like our entire environment. We were using CenturyLink, I think it was, like their cloud.
Oh, hey,
Oh my, Azure is better than that. Let's just, it's really bad. But we did the full like rip and replace into AWS with Terraform, and then that's where I wanted to go.
Sure.
It was, it's gonna happen.
the writing was on the wall. Yeah, everything's going to be going that direction.
Right. So first of all, talk to me about your experience with Terraform. I'm not a fan. I think that in some ways it's overly complex.
I've seen it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, it on the surface, it looks like something reasonable and easy to adopt for an infrastructure person, right? And the more I dig into it, the more I'm like, this sucks just as bad as the 20 years in the Microsoft systems world. Like, yeah, I'm here now, but I did not like the journey. Terraform feels that same way to me at a smaller scale, right?
It's so Terraform is really good when you do it right. I've seen it done wrong. I did it wrong in my first job. Everybody did it wrong once in their life. When it's done right, it's done like using modules, and things are, I guess, like you're doing the full automation where you're grabbing IDs from, I created these servers, now I need to grab the IDs of the servers to do something in, I don't know, the networking side. That's when it gets really cool. And it's not hard, which is the good thing. They really made Terraform super simple to work with. Doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It's a little bit more complicated than like shell scripting, but it's along those lines where like you have the basic flow control type things, if statements,
Sure.
just some very basic type of like manipulations, but then like you can get very advanced with that when you start looking at some of the more advanced Terraform. I know a lot of people are moving slightly away from Terraform and going to like Pulumi, whatever it's called, just because then they can write their infrastructure with like TypeScript or Golang or Python, and they don't have to context switch. So they're not writing Terraform and their Python app, they're just writing Python. That, and you get all like the better parts of Python or TypeScript or whatever, you get that part of it as well to work with your infrastructure as code. So
Okay.
I would think a lot of them are probably going to move that way. I don't know if Terraform will ever move that way, just because it's kind of like the baseline, and there's so much Terraform out there now that you really can't. But I don't know. I think it's okay. I've seen like what do they call them? Phoenix days. So Phoenix days is when you completely destroy everything you have, rip down your entire environment, and bring it up like a phoenix. Like
I mean,
Rise from the ashes.
yeah,
that
that's
it is one of the coolest things about infrastructure as code is the concept that you can do that, right? And you know when you're ready too, right? Like, all right, I've been through all of these deployments. I know this code. I know this process, and like you can actually you can bound it. Like it could go as quickly as 2 minutes or as long as 30, right? And like that's crazy. You think about infrastructure and networking 20 years ago to say, yeah, I can stand up our environment between 2 and 30 minutes, and I can predict the outside edge of that reliably is nuts.
Yeah.
it's pretty
and
cool.
it is.
Getting there is a journey, but
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's taken
That,
the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that is very powerful because basically you've captured every single unique thing or important thing about every one of those servers, services, networking, everything is all in a set of files.
Mhm.
Right.
So any manipulation you need to do to those, it's not RDPing into a server and making some changes anymore. It's well, it takes less to burn it down and just stamp up a new one that's correct. Or better yet, you stamp a new one that's correct and you just flip over to it.
Mhm.
This isn't working quite right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a
Oh,
minute.
we're good now.
That
I mean,
that's 99% of the troubleshooting with Kubernetes is you just kick the pod, which is what we call it. Just delete the pod and let it be recreated. And
right.
since like there's that pod is completely stateless, I always get those confused. Where it doesn't matter at all. You can kick it and it'll spin right back up and be the exact same thing. And
Yeah.
that's troubleshooting in Kubernetes. Is kick that thing. Just worry
Yeah.
about it later.
Because
Right.
there's no important data in there. It's just it's a set of not I was going to say a set of compute, but not even that. It's a set of things that do things, and it's all defined in
It
those
it is
files. So there's nothing important there. It's
right.
just it's a set of commands. You can tear it down and stand it right the fuck back up.
Sometimes
Oh,
that's what stateful sets are. They actually use like EBS backing.
okay.
So that's the idea of stateful set. They're stateful. Yeah,
Mm.
see that? They're stateful. So, but the pod itself doesn't matter because that EBS volume won't go away. It's still there. The pod will
Yeah.
Right.
just recycle and come back up. And if there's anything that like a init containers is the thing with pods where you can have like a container start up before the main one if it needs to run a database migration or seed a file. You
Yeah.
can do all
You're
that.
basically bootstrapping everything else.
Yep.
Yep.
That's
It's
99% of the troubleshooting in Kubernetes. Just delete.
I mean, at the end of the day, Kubernetes is you're stripping your operational code down to as few pieces of code as you can run in and keep it together, right? So like if you can get it down to a single executable, you'll run a single executable in a container. And
That's how you should.
sometimes stuff goes bad, right? But who cares? You kick it, it comes back, and it's built in a way where it's so isolated from everything else that it literally does not care that you just completely deleted it and brought it back.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It really is like when you think about these old pets.
Yeah,
that
how we
was-
used to do things back in the
Yeah.
dark ages of just a few years ago.
You know, back when we were running NT4 with, what is the old routing and remote access? Wait, nobody
Yeah,
nobody
fast.
did that.
You don't even need to go back that far.
No.
5 years. 5 years ago.
Yeah.
This was science fiction practically.
Yep. Jesse, what do you got to say about it all? You look like you're contemplating the world.
Yeah, no, I I don't have a lot of hands-on experience with it, but it's a thing. So
It's the thing. I mean, so here's the thing about inevitably any question, any conversation that gets into depth about like a containerized world and infrastructure as code world inevitably falls into these weird jargon things, right? Like pods and containers and like unless you're kind of washed in it, it's like, yeah, I've heard these terms and I kind of know what they mean, but like it flies so fast and like they're such weirdly generic terms because the industry loves those things. And it just becomes almost unparsable until you spent enough time with it. And that's the thing that I hate about it, right? Like I think a lot more infrastructure people would be totally into it if it would just be a little more accessible and a little more relatable. And it frequently, like, I don't know what it is about the language that makes it not that way. But yeah, I mean, the first probably 2 years of time where I heard about containers, I'm like, that sounds really cool. Like you describe the solutions that it can provide without describing in much detail how it provides those solutions. And I'd be like, I mean, yeah, that sounds great, but you know what? I've heard a lot of things that sound great and been lied to a number of times in my career. So,
Mhm.
show me tell me why that works. And then as you start to learn more about it, it's like, oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Sure. Um, I mean, there's the inevitable aspects of it. Like, when you break it down to its basic constituent parts, you are relying on the developers of your containerization system to have gotten the networking right. And when I say right, I mean both secure and fast. Um,
Mm,
you
not
know,
really. I don't
I
touch
mean,
anything networking.
you don't, because you rely on your containerization system to do it.
Mm-mm. I rely on our infrastructure team to deal with the networking side of Kubernetes.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, really, that's what it is. Is like that side
So that
is
part is more static for you. It's just there, and you just build everything
Right.
within the constraints. It's not a complete tear down.
Well, you
It's
can do
not full
that too.
infrastructure as code.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Well, you can.
It,
I'm
on
just
the
saying, in his case, he does not.
right, right.
That
But like,
infrastructure portion, that framework, kind of is more static in his environment, and then he
right,
just builds inside of it.
right.
He kind of
I would
knows what
guess that
his where he's
storage
going.
storage
yeah,
is similar, correct? Like there's a
yeah,
storage component to like you
kind
there's
of.
some storage you interact with, but like there's also like more back end storage that ends up getting consumed, right?
If I define what storage I want to consume and what type, from my end, that doesn't matter to Kubernetes. Kubernetes doesn't care. It doesn't want to use storage actually. Using storage is something that we have to do in our environment just because of the type of things that we run in it. We have to use like a storage backend. But for the most part, like web servers, if you have a bunch of web servers running in Kubernetes pods, those aren't going to use much storage in the backend because they're going to be completely stupid and they don't care.
Yeah.
We use a lot of stateful sets because we want to keep the state in our environment, and like we want to keep the state of that node
Right.
cluster, whatever. It is static. The
So
Kubernetes cluster is static, Brian, and like that's where all of the networking is set up. That's where all of like
Yep.
the logic of how many nodes you can spin up, how many, like where you're actually pulling the storage from that I defined. Um, Load
right,
balancers, all of that is the static part of
Yeah.
Kubernetes.
databases are outside. I mean, you can turn up a database in Kubernetes, but like if you've got truly like the interchange, essentially the data lake or the long-term storage layers in the data world, that's still more back end in most, from what I've seen, and I'm not watching it. Um, but I've seen that like there's still a place for, I won't say traditional database, but like Elastic or you know sometimes even full on SQL living somewhere that's accessible to Kubernetes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
probably less so for Tony though. It's because all these things. There's not like a traditional database there. Any like warm data that's merely a convenience because any node could get everything it needs. It just takes time. So if you're preloading it, it's just to be able to get that node online quicker, not necessarily.
and we do that.
It's not a database like we would think of it. It's not like a SQL instance.
We have one of those, and that's just to keep track of all of the customer resources and their status. Like it's the dumbest database ever. That's
Yeah.
all. That's
Right.
literally all it does is like it keeps track of where they're at, how many they have, who it is, and like customer or whatever info. And
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very very basic database. That's our use case. I'm sure there's other ones out there. I know databases. There's like a giant push right now to get them containerized and in the Kubernetes and blah blah blah. But Chris is right. That's like one of the holdouts right now.
Well, it's hard because like the core principle of Kubernetes, you can tear it down right now, right? But the core principle of data is that it resists being torn down. Right? Like at some point you want to preserve your data, right? You can't, like you think about customer data, right? You can't lose that. So how do you preserve that? Now, there are things out there that make that possible. Interestingly enough, like blockchain does a really good job at preserving data in a way that you can tear down any storage you want as long as there's a viable subset of blockchain nodes out there. Your data is alive and can be read easily.
Yeah. And any new node it'll just pull down what it needs and hit the ground running. Well, maybe not hit the ground running, but it'll get there.
And databases in Kubernetes can be backed by like EBS volumes, and then you make shots of that, you make backups of that, and then you can still kick them, and they just continuously use that EBS volume over and over. So that's kind of like the idea with databases. Microsoft databases, which a lot of people still use, I don't know. I don't know how you Kubernetes containerize the hell out of those, but it's probably possible. That's why a lot of people are moving to like Postgres and Maria DB and stuff, is because they are easier to containerize and use like that.
Yeah. Well, see, I think that's why they're not, is because it is difficult to do it in the Microsoft world. I mean, that's the hardest thing about going multi-data center with any kind of, like, say you have a website and you want a Microsoft SQL backend. Having more than one database that those sites hit is very difficult, trying to keep all that data in sync. That's the hardest problem to solve when you're trying to do that.
I mean, the way you solve that problem for anybody that does it at scale is they don't try to keep it in sync.
Well, yeah.
They do, instead of doing...
You know what you need to keep in sync and you know what you don't. And you very carefully segment the two.
Well, they achieve the goal of eventual consistency, right?
Yeah.
You have software that maintains that eventually gets you there, and then all of your other software knows when it needs to get real consistency. Like, take an e-commerce platform, right? If it's important when you're executing a transaction to have actual data about what inventory looks like at all of the possible places that it exists, that's a point where you need full consistency.
Yeah.
Basically, any other time, you don't need it. So why bother? But that's the thing that developers, like many industries, are having to deal with. And it's hard. You're just not used to thinking about it that way.
Well, you pretty much have to abstract it at that point, and you have some sort of broker router that will know what data, when it needs to wait for the correct answer, wait for the source of truth, and when it doesn't.
Fun story.
Like,
they're going back to a technology that's like circa 1980.
Yeah.
Semaphore tables. They're super quick. They're tiny. And they're reliable.
So when are you guys going to use Kubernetes? When is your migration? You planned it out yet? Has it been discussed at your company?
Oh, so since we last talked, I'm at a new company.
Cool.
The place that we all used to work has dipped their toe into Kubernetes, stood up a Rancher POC, and I actually turned up a K6, a little bit of K6 platform. K6 is a automation testing thing for those that aren't aware. What was that?
It's a load testing or whatever.
Right, load testing. So I stood up between 2 and 6 containers within a pod to run some load tests against that retail system to validate some changes we were doing in actually the WAF. So
you're gonna, if you go with Rancher, from my experience, you're gonna dislike it eventually. You're gonna run into limitations of it that are different than 99% of people who are just using like EKS or AKAS, whatever it is, on
right.
GCP AWS. You're gonna run into that, and you're gonna hate it because there's gonna be like these little funky things that you have to do just because you chose Rancher's distribution of Kubernetes and how they do it, and
Right.
things aren't gonna work right, and you'll spend the majority of your time cursing yourself, and you're going to be so entrenched in it that to switch away from it is going to be impossible.
Right. We saw a few of those things, and honestly, the support for Rancher it's okay, but it's not everything you might want it to be. And you know, the thing was, it was the first dipping the toe in the water, right? The conversation we'd had around it was largely, we need something to stand up in our on-prem environment. Rancher does provide a nice tight package that gets you up and running pretty quick. But the overall theme was that, yeah, once you move it out into the cloud, you're gonna move to like, Google, GCP's, whatever. I can't remember what the. Yeah.
That's the one. That's the good stuff. Yeah, I didn't know it was on-prem. On-prem, different story. You just you use whatever you can get up and working, I think.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I think particularly in the upper Midwest, there's still a fair amount of companies out there that have a significant on-prem footprint. I mean, really, there's a fair amount of companies on the East and West Coasts that have on-prem footprint. Smaller companies that started out later have less of that. Even those companies, like even a company your size, I would wager would save money if they stood up their own data center.
Probably.
Just because of cloud costs. Like, cloud costs are real.
What, we requested more storage a while ago, and we got like 4 petabytes or something like that, and we had to request more storage recently.
Yep.
Like AWS just hates us because we're like, we need more, and they're like, really? We're lucky, and the only reason we're a full Kubernetes shop is because our company started 2.5 years ago.
Right.
So right from the get-go, we decided, look, we're going with Kubernetes. So yeah, it's a pipe dream for any company that is existing to be like full-on Kubernetes at this point. They're going to try to deteriorate all those on-site resources, your data center. They're not just going to be like, oh, here's $5 million gone.
Well, the thing is you can run Kubernetes in your data center. It will run just as well there as it will run in Google.
Well, yeah, you've got to. There'd be a huge advantage to doing so, knowing that you could develop it once and you could run it on-prem, or you could run it in basically any cloud. Once you're tooled up for it.
And just like any scenario where you're talking about like on-prem versus cloud, anybody that's compared the two from a performance standpoint knows that you can make your on-prem stuff run way faster.
This is absolutely true.
Because like both the compute and the storage they're offering you in the cloud are at least 2 generations behind. And they're abstracted and they're expensive. Unless you're getting that sweet introductory pricing.
Wouldn't so you have state of the art CPUs in your on-prem?
Yep.
Devil's advocate. So like every year you're just like, bam, brand new CPUs. We don't even
So-
mess around.
I mean, you look at the current generation in, say, GCP for CPU. That is what you were buying in on-prem somewhere between 2.5 and 4 years ago
Really?
in on-prem. You think about
It's farther behind than you'd think. It's even worse in Azure.
yeah,
Wow.
and
I know.
but you think about what it takes for a cloud provider to roll out a new hardware platform. They can't even offer it until they've vetted it, gotten it to integrate well, and then gotten a high enough saturation that they can roll it out at scale, right?
You need enough footprint of that particular platform in every region to even make it worthwhile for any customer that would actually want to pay the premium to go to that new SKU. Well, that new instance,
Right.
whatever.
And then you continue to buy that, right? To the point where it becomes your primary workload, and then you offer customers incentives to move to it so they move off the old stuff, and then you sunset the old stuff. But you're offering that old stuff as initial tier for quite a while.
Mhm.
Whereas the day that you can buy that in the on-prem environment, you can spin it up and capitalize on it in days, weeks, and off you go.
Just from pure power utilization, I'm surprised that they go so long. I mean, because basically every generation, it's 50%, well, maybe not 50% faster. It's 20% faster and 50% of the power utilized. I mean, it's been huge jumps in, well, downwards in power use for a given compute block. So I'm surprised that they hang on for stuff for so long. But at the same time, I'm not, because it's a massive undertaking to
Right.
swap that all out and validate it and get it in enough regions and all the stuff we just covered.
Right.
So
And then you have to get customers off it, right? Like there's customers that like, oh, I tried to move, or I'm afraid of moving. Don't change my compute layer, or don't
Mhm.
change my storage layer. I might have a bug.
Or just don't want to pay for it because that next hop to the next generation compute, it's going to come at a higher cost. Until you're at the hairy edge and they force you off. Oh yeah.
So Microsoft and GCP,
AWS and GCP both.
so both of them, once they get enough saturation in the newer compute, they de-incentivize the old stuff.
Okay.
So like right now you pay, actually I don't know what it is right now, but like a year ago you paid almost half the price for the next better generation of compute because they wanted you off of the old stuff.
Okay.
And there's always customers that are going to pay that big premium. You know, U.S. government, military. And you're like, nope, you maintain that as long as I want you to.
Server 2000 Data Center Edition does not run on your ARM CPUs. Sorry.
Unless you pay them enough, and then it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, we developed a Server 2000 emulator. Actually, we developed a 486 emulator to run on ARM that we then run your Server 2000 on.
That's the
OS 2
push.
warp on ARM.
AWS is pushing the ARM CPUs, and it makes sense. The cheaper, they use like
Oh yeah.
as much power as a LED. They're pretty insane. So I know like that's their new thing. Yeah, I haven't looked at CPUs in a while. God, I'm out of that game. I really have been for a very little bit of time. For a very little bit of time.
As a matter of personal discipline, I try to go back and read a little bit about current architecture from Intel at least once every 12 to 18 months. Just because, like, it's good to know what's going on. And while there are definitely other innovations in the compute space, so much is driven by Intel that it's useful. Like, whatever Intel is touting in their latest generation, good to know.
Yeah, I've kind of stayed on top of it just because, well, for a couple of years I've been looking to update my VMware cluster at home. But the thing is, it's taken so long. By the time I finally want to do it, I won't want to do it anymore because it'll be, well, I'll just run it in the cloud or I'll run it on ARM or like the question will be irrelevant before I finally pull the trigger and buy some new servers. Or hell, I'll have a cluster of Raspberry Pi 4s or 5s or whatever.
Super wickedly inefficient, but dirt cheap.
They are dirt cheap. Well, and they don't use much power either.
I mean,
Hey,
individually, they do not use much power.
run my Kubernetes cluster on
For
Raspberry Pis.
for the amount of compute they give you, they are wildly inefficient.
I would
Some
go
things
with,
I have need compute, some things don't.
go with the XU4S if you're going with the cluster for compute.
Yeah, well, shit, I got two.
I got like four of
Right.
them.
Oh, you can't see it. Yeah, I got,
Just-
I got two right there.
Just wait for the quantum computers, man.
Yeah, wait
It's
for
gonna be a while.
They're going to be great at everything.
Yeah, grab a Snickers.
No, they're very specialized. That's the problem.
They're super duper specialized. But don't worry, somebody will shoehorn them into every task that could be known poorly, but they'll do it anyway. You know what that's called? Job security.
What job security?
Keep that bus factor high.
Yeah.
What was that?
Keep the bus factor high.
So yeah. Well, exciting stuff, man.
You too. I'm glad you're away from you know where.
It was time. It was time to move on. They hopefully are gonna make some substantive moves. Like they're not gonna make a complete sea change, right? Like businesses don't do that. They don't change their stripes. They have been in business for 25 years, 30 years. Clearly they are doing at least some things right.
Mm-hmm.
And if that, I mean, maybe that's like, not making too many awful mistakes so that they can stumble into good decisions. Like, I don't know, but, even that is a certain sense of wisdom. Anyway, I'm hoping that they're going to make some reasonable changes to make them viable for at least the next 5 years. But they're in retail. That is a tough, scary space to be right now.
Yeah, most definitely.
It is, but they always do good in a bad market or a bad economy.
Yeah, I mean, as Brian and I have talked before, like, if you are in retail today, the question you have to answer, if you're going to have like high level of assurance of being in business 5 or 10 years from now is, what do you do about Amazon?
Yeah. Well, the hope is Amazon, the quality finally gets to people and people give it up. But it's never going to happen when you can order something and it gets there the same day.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
the American consumer has stopped caring about quality really 15 years ago, before Amazon came about. Amazon wouldn't have gotten a start if quality really mattered.
I don't know. They were kind of high quality before. Then, like, it became marketplace for everybody. And then that's when, like, the Chinese places came in and started just offering just the cheap ripoffs.
Knockoff crap.
Yeah, it didn't matter because anybody could sell on Amazon like that. There was a point where they opened it up. If I'm not
There will be
mistaken.
an ebb and flow, I think. I think you'll see, and I think you're already seeing this with the Amazon recommends or Amazon's choice. When Amazon is doing that, in general, that product is 50th percentile or above. Because
Amazon Basics stuff.
Amazon basic stuff is, I think, like 60th, 70th percentile or above.
Oh.
What you're getting there is
It
it's not
depends
the
on what
best.
it is. Yeah, definitely not.
But it's at least a step or two above the worst, and it's going to come for a price that is comparable.
I think they just see they'll see a particular item that has a high profit margin, and then or something that they think they can get a high profit margin in if they make basically a clone of it in China.
And I don't think they even. I think they worry about raw profitability. I don't think they worry about margin, right? Like, in a lot of ways, Amazon is very much like practices the Walmart School of Business volume, but their volume equation is far different than like Walmart's. Like, I'm going to sell 1 million of this one particular product. Amazon has figured out I don't have to sell 1 million of one particular product. I have to sell 1 billion of all of my products
for half as much margin as your, because that's the danger of Amazon for any retail space that is profitable, even if it's not hugely profitable. If they see, oh wow, this particular segment is making 2.5%, I can sell that same thing for 1.25% and just blow out the market, and own it.
And they pat themselves on the back and saying, for the customer that really wants that product, that's like,
we still offer that. Yeah,
we still right, and that's how they sop their egos, that they're not destroying quality and local markets and things like that, which is a complete lie. Like, they regularly gut markets for quality, and
it's the same cycle as the big box stores taking over small town, like all the Walmarts basically wiped out all the Main Street stores in every town across the country.
Until they didn't anymore.
Until they didn't anymore, and then Amazon figured out how to do it even cheaper. I mean, granted, Walmart's still doing amazing financially. I mean, they probably always will.
But you look at a Sendix, right? Sendix is a brand that is essentially built on, you don't just want the lowest cost thing. You want produce that's in good shape. You want meats and cheeses that are high quality. You want a liquor department that is more than just like what you can get for like $2, right?
Well, that goes back to the meme. Why, I mean, you might as well spend a couple bucks more to shop at Target, just so you don't have to shop at Walmart. Like that dump. Like, you go to Wally World. Like, come on. I mean, you know what you're getting into.
I mean, the thing is, there's decent product at Walmart, right?
Well, and that goes back to, you just need to be a smart buyer.
Right.
in all parts of life.
Well,
So,
and
back to what Tony made a good point. Like he said something effective. Like there was a point when the Amazon was really, really good. I remember that time. Amazon was damn good. Like you could trust the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
You could trust the products, and now you can't. Now every review I'm suspect of. I'm like, this is a bought and paid for review. This is the little tag I get in the product that says, please leave us a 5-star review for whatever. Yeah. So you have to be super diligent about what products you buy.
Oh yeah, I pretty much only look at the negative reviews now.
yes.
But those two you have to temper. You have to understand what you're looking at.
Right.
But they are probably more honest.
And if I buy something on Amazon if I'm looking for a product like I was looking for USB cables for a while because I was just
Anchor.
I don't know where my USB cables went, but they just kept disappearing. So I'm like, I'm going to solve my USB cable problem. And like, I was looking through different different vendors, and I felt like it's always sunny in Philadelphia, like conspiracy theory where I'm putting together like all these dots that shouldn't belong. it's like I don't know who to trust. So it's become exceedingly frustrated for products where I don't know when I'm going into it what I'm getting. So
that's the thing is like if you just look up, I was looking for like jackets for my dog the other day, for like rain jackets, and it was like
you're done.
I don't even know what I need or what I want, and like their sizing guides are just out of the blue. Like they're just way out there. Like measure him in this direction and then this, and I'm like, no. There's like 5 sellers selling the same thing with different sizing guides and different like. The Photoshop pictures are just killing me lately.
Oh yeah, they're hilarious.
But I good.
Yeah, I went through that trying to find harnesses for Ziggy. Yeah, it's just what they show and how they size that. Well, basically how they have their sizing guides are like ridiculous. Well, you have to measure around the chest here, and then around the hips here, and then like the length and their weight. And
Sorry, I think I'm cutting out or whatever.
Yeah, just a little bit. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I went the longest time without returning a damn thing to Amazon, like years, and now I've returned like maybe 8 things in the past year alone, 10 things, and it just because you're getting that garbage now, and it's just like I get it, and I'm like, nope, not even gonna accept that.
Yeah. Well, and it used to be if I got something that was shit, it was something that I probably knew was going to be shit, and it wasn't even worth it. Now it's something that, well, I thought this was going to be good, and it's complete garbage. Luckily, like by us, we can just drop stuff off at Kohl's, and it goes back. You probably have similar stores that will do returns for Amazon there, so you don't have to worry about shipping it back. You just come there with the barcode and give them the shit, and they'll pack it up for you and deal with it all, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Yep. Yeah. If you guys hate retail and chain stores, move to New York. Like, there's like a Target, and that's it. There's like maybe like a McDonald's I think I saw, but they're very few and far between, which is nice.
I do appreciate that.
They really are few and far. But there isn't a Walmart. There is not a Walmart anywhere near.
There's no way they could afford to. They couldn't have a store that would fit their business model anywhere in the metro area. There's no way.
The Target is like 5 stores.
They might be able to do a delivery model.
Oh, that might work. Put a warehouse in Jersey or something. And
yep. Because everything's legal in New Jersey.
Do a partnership with Amazon and have them ship it.
Cats and dogs.
Walmart delivered by Amazon. I love it.
Well, yeah. I mean, their delivery is getting pretty good.
Yeah.
Cats and dogs. Never happened.
I mean, I can get deliveries in the middle of the night now. They're overnight deliveries. I've gone outside at 5 in the morning to let the dog out, and there's been a package on my porch because it got delivered at 3 in the morning. It's like, dude, that's a little bit ridiculous.
I've noticed I've never had Prime ever, and I've ordered a healthy amount of Amazon. Never once had Prime, and I've noticed like a lot of stuff has been showing up earlier and earlier and earlier.
Yeah. They're
Like,
back to the
this is-
pre-COVID, maybe even better for shipping. Because pre-COVID, like southeastern Wisconsin, they were just starting to do like the same day stuff. Now they've finally brought that back in the last couple of months, and now they're doing the overnight, which is the middle of the night deliveries, which is ridiculous. Sometimes you don't even ask for it.
Yeah.
If
and
you're
they'll
close
deliver it
enough
in the middle
in,
of the night. Yeah.
like
Creeping
where
around
I'm
the
at,
yard.
I didn't, except for in like just post holiday, we would lose overnight, but we had overnight the entire time.
Yeah.
And same day, basically the whole time. But that's their growing distribution network, and like that overnight aspect is them capitalizing on we can run more than one shift, right?
Yeah.
They can.
Might as well keep moving product the whole time.
It makes so much sense. The streets are empty.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like
It's more efficient for the drivers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Brian-
gas costs the same.
nothing's getting stolen from like where Brian lives. They can't do
No.
it here just because they have to ring a doorbell to get in. So I don't think we'll ever see that, at least where I'm at right now. But
Drop boxes.
Yeah, like I bet you have a much higher saturation of like Amazon lockers in your area than we do out here, because I think there's like 2 Amazon lockers in Menominee Falls, Germantown, and Sussex.
there is stores that accept packages for you. There's no space for lockers. Sadly.
I don't know why that's not more of a thing, like the Amazon locker thing. You know, you scan your barcode, you scan your QR code, this thing pops open, and your shit falls out, kind of thing. Like
And honestly, a place-
24/7. You know,
In a place like Amazon that really knows how their product moves and what their velocities are and what's selling where, like down to the square foot, probably,
yeah.
they could probably pre-populate
Yeah.
Amazon lockers with like really hot items and
Yeah.
just have one ready to go and be like, oh, it's ready. Well, I just hit
Yeah.
buy it
15
now.
seconds, done.
Yeah, 15 seconds. I can go pick it up.
What's very funny is my current girlfriend lives in a modest, not large, but decent sized apartment complex, and all the packages go to one like shipping room.
Yeah.
And like I gotta go. She's like, the first time we went there, she's like, I gotta go get a package, and I'm like, okay, so I go with her and open the door, and it's like there had to have been 500 packages in there. Easy 500 packages. And she's like, I gotta find it. I'm like, well, you're gonna find a fucking needle in a haystack here? Like, like this is stupid.
I was expecting like an attendant or something. And
Oh no, it's just a room,
Oh.
and
Just dump it.
it's comical. It's comical.
Oh.
And I'm like,
One
how
of the
long is
things
this
you
stuff-
can
I'm
one
like,
of the things you can get at my current employer
yes,
is an
Like,
attendant. You can have your Amazon packages shipped there, and they'll like have them for you.
Yeah.
Tony's giving us a tour of his apartment. I hope he's not in the bathroom right now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the
Turn
kitchen.
your feet off before you take a shit or something.
Yeah.
This cost me $1,700 a month, guys.
Wow, that's the whole thing, huh?
Yeah, there's a bedroom over here.
Well, still.
But
Where
yeah,
the
it,
magic
wow.
happens.
but yeah, that's it. That's the house.
That's
My
it.
mortgage is only 1,800. Well, 18 and change. Let's say 19. But still, it's bigger than that. My family
20
earns
if we're
that
being
size.
honest. If we're accounting correctly, 2100.
This is like 17
Yeah.
plus another 4 below it.
God. Yeah. Yeah. Well.
I
What
got
else?
paid to do this.
Whatever.
Those eyes always creep me out.
That was I worked on those for a little while to make them at first glance appear friendly, but not
Then look
too friendly.
ominous.
Now there's suspicious.
Just a little creepy. No, just a little creepy. So part of it is angle and part of it is color. They have white irises for a reason.
Squidward.
Yeah.
That's
It's
what
the
it
Happy Dictionary.
Yeah, the top of his head looked like Squidward for a while, like before
Oh.
you angled it.
Also, the vague green color is super intentional.
Hmm.
All right, fellas, I'm gonna take off. I gotta
Yeah.
take the dog for a walk, eat some food, and head on out.
Peace.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time on one topic. I had
Yeah.
2 more queued up, and we never even got to them.
Oh boy.
That's okay.
Because we're practically at the 2-hour mark. I mean, hour 40.
Indeed. Well, thanks for coming, Tony. It's great to talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for having
We'd,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Open
thinking we'd love
invitation.
to have you on again. Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you're bored, want to come and talk and shoot the shit. And
And you don't have to stay until,
no, you can
11,
stay as
15.
short or as long as you want. You want to pop in for 10 minutes and harass us? That's cool too.
Recurring guest.
Yeah.
We can have Tony talk. You can tell us
We
about
have
the
what,
latest coat
7
you
or 8
bought for your
people that
dog.
rotate in and out. So
What's up?
we have 7 or 8 people that rotate in and out. So
Yeah.
we usually have at least 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
Oh yeah, thanks for coming. It was greatly appreciated. You have yourself a good night. Take easy for a walk. Don't step on any needles.
It's garbage night, so we got to go rat dodging.
Oh
Ooh,
Jesus!
rat dodging.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I hate taking walks on Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and Friday nights because it's just like after 9 p.m. the rats are just out there.
Oh God, Jesse! If you ever have to go to the Paris data center, watch out for rats. I saw one the size of a raccoon.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They're
Oh,
well fed.
And don't don't walk there from the hotel. No matter what direction you're coming, it's not a good walk.
Don't wear
Just
sandals.
take an Uber.
Yeah, no sandals.
Wear sandals.
Yeah,
Like,
no
No
sandals.
sandals.
You'll get hepatitis.
Oh.
I've had a
Or a
rat,
rat will eat your toe.
foot, so no sandals.
All right. Well, don't let the rats get you down. Because
Yeah,
if they do, they'll eat you.
they might. There's a lot of them. All
Well,
right,
thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
There. Later.
Cool.
So, Tony,
I do need to make it out to New York and go visit, but things have been stupid in New York lately, so haven't made it yet.
that's kind of what New York is all about, though.
Well, yeah.
They make money
But-
being stupid.
He loves it there, so more power to him. Plus, they actually pay him extra to live in the city.
That's nutty.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he's jumping into the data center, right? Because he's close by.
No, but I mean, they have offices there. There's a handful of cities where if he's like within a certain radius, he gets not a bonus, but like not a stipend. Just I don't even know what
That's
to call
gotta
it.
be. That's gotta be government-based subsidy. Like, how's your business here? Employ XYZ number of people. We'll give
Ooh, it
you
might be
right.
like a TIF district kind of
Yep.
thing, or
Yep.
they got some a little bit of sugar on the side from a county or something,
Right.
or
Accounting
whatever.
departments are not stupid.
Yeah,
They may not be sophisticated, but they're not stupid.
yeah. Yeah, and honestly, we don't really even have time to try and cover any other topic in any kind of depth, so we might have to bump.
I mean, we got topics for next week. It's fine. Let's
do.
talk about how bad Amazon product is.
Depends on what
I've had pretty good luck with like Amazon Basics, but I know what I'm buying, and I don't have unrealistic expectations.
So
Right.
so let's talk about the this is complete garbage products. Like you order
they're
it,
out.
This is just total garbage. Like I haven't gotten a lot of those because I think that I do my research pretty well.
Yeah, I believe
There's-
myself to be a savvy consumer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
also, the marketplace does tend to select those out, and Amazon does have a choice about who they like. They'll do e-commerce for anybody, right? But what shows up in your search?
Yeah, they would gently drive you away from the shitty ones.
Right, because
Well,
the customer loyalty is just as important to them as it is to anybody else. If they give you too much crap, you'll go back to Target.
Yeah.
Because like if you order the crappy thing from Amazon 3 times, it's taking you 3 days to get there, and then you may as well have driven to Target. Also, you spent the same amount in gas returning your product.
yeah. And I've had to return very little.
Yeah, I've had to return very little too. I know there were a couple flashlights that I knew were China garbage. Like I was rolling the dice. I was like, like two out of three were duds. I'm like, I kind of deserve this.
Yeah, if something's DOA,
Yeah.
Okay, that's on them. If it shows up and it's basically what I was expecting and basically what I paid for,
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to try and return it.
Yeah.
Because
If it hits the description, it's not everything you wanted, but it has complied with the basics of the description of the product.
Yeah.
Correct.
I've
Like,
totally
this was
returned
not
things.
this was not a deceptive listing.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
it looks exactly like the picture. It has all the stuff that they said it would, but it's exactly what I paid for.
Right.
I was hoping
I've totally
for
returned
more,
things
but it didn't happen. I wouldn't
because
return that.
the description, while it was accurate, was worded in a way that made it slightly misleading. Like, I'm like, yeah, you sort of said that, but nah, you're going back.
Yeah.
Amazon can eat it.
Oh, Brian, that touchscreen I have, that portable touchscreen.
Oh yeah.
It does run off of straight Lightning USB-C.
Oh, that's good.
So you don't need power.
Okay.
I must have been plugging it into the wrong thing, but I keep a power thing with it just.
A lot of laptops, only some of the USB-C ports can actually put out like enough power. That's probably what happened.
I think one of them does and the other one doesn't. So that's probably what I was dealing with.
Yeah, because like my laptop has 4. The 2 of them are also Thunderbolt 4 or whatever
Yeah,
the hell
that's
version.
got to be.
And
what
those
it
do
is.
put out enough power, but there's ones that don't.
Yeah.
Or it'll. I think they power up on that one, but it just pops a warning.
Right.
But there's
Lower
some other
power.
things that like won't even. Yeah.
just won't run.
Yeah. But because yours is 4K and it's touchscreen, it probably has a little more draw than mine does.
And it does. I keep the power with it no matter what, but I think I was just plugging it into the wrong port. But it
That
does
could be it.
power up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. You know what the hardest thing to find on Amazon is unique power sport parts, oil filters and brake parts and
Yeah. Searching
Amazon?
for part numbers sometimes isn't great.
God.
Also,
Because
Amazon-
every description has 1,000 part numbers in there somewhere.
just because they're trying to, that's something that Amazon actually needs to crack down on, right? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
this is not
It's basically spamming for search results.
Yeah.
right.
And then you're always only one click away from there's a newer version of this
Yeah.
item from getting
No.
something that's totally not what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they like if they're going to keep their customers at all happy, they're going to have to crack down on that.
They've gotten better at like regular car parts. Like if you put in your make and model of your car or truck or whatever, they're pretty good about that. But once you get off of that, once you get into anything other than cars and trucks and stuff, like
Yeah.
good luck. You're on your own.
Right.
The only thing they don't handle well is any of the weird, like, all the like half model kind of goofiness where it's like,
yeah.
if there was mid-year changes,
Oh,
Amazon doesn't know about it.
mm,
AutoZone does. Amazon doesn't know about it. And
Yeah.
I get it.
They're not. And Amazon's like, this is like our B, C class offerings. Like,
Yeah.
it's not their bread and butter. Their bread and butter
No,
is like
it's not.
some, live, laugh, love, thing. So.
Yeah. Well, and specifically like brake rotors and pads, that's where you have to be really careful about. You'll do a search. You have to be really careful that what you click on is actually the part number you're looking for or an
Yes.
equivalent.
Yep.
Because it's real easy because they will suggest all kinds of ones that are
Yep.
absolutely not compatible with your car, like not even remotely. So double, triple, quadruple check.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get a boat anchor.
Right. Yeah. Crazy stuff. All right, let's talk other things. New season of Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix.
Oh,
Whatever that is. Sure.
If you're
it's an anthology. It's a sci-fi anthology. It's actually really, really good.
right,
At least the first two seasons were.
if you are a fan of like high quality anime and heavy metal from back in the day, the animated film series set to heavy metal rock, Love, Death, and Robots will tickle you in the right place.
Okay.
Episodes ranging from like 7 to 25 minutes, but very few of them go 25. It's typically like 7 to 12.
Yeah, they're usually pretty short. They're sweet and to the point.
Yeah.
They're all self-contained. It's an anthology.
And it's pretty dark. Like if take
Animated Black Mirror.
yeah.
But I mean, not. But
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah, I mean that principle, like the the splash on there is violence, gore, nudity, language. is their recommendation to the kids. So,
I like all those things.
so yeah, check it out. The latest iteration of the Ghost in the Shell franchise premiered today on Netflix. You know, if you're into that kind of thing. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series out on Disney Plus on Friday. So, starring Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, I canceled my Disney Plus.
Totally understand. A lot of people did.
Yeah. My Netflix, I cut down to what I get for free from T-Mobile. I mean, I've had T-Mobile forever, and they've had that promotion for like 5 years now. I never even bothered signing up for it, so I get the free Netflix. I was just paying for the full boat, HD, multi-screen, whatever the top tier Netflix is. I was paying for, but I haven't watched Netflix on purpose in months. So it was like, if there wasn't a button for Netflix on my, well, it's not Chromecast, it's a Google TV.
Right. If you didn't accidentally sit on the
whatever the hell
Netflix
they
button.
call it.
Yeah.
If I didn't accidentally hit the Netflix button, I wouldn't have launched it in months. I don't know why. I just stopped watching it. Most of the content I watch is on YouTube now.
Agreed. Yeah.
Or I got oh god, I can't remember there's two documentary
Curiosity.
Nebula and Curiosity Stream. Yeah, so I signed up for those. It's like $15 for a whole year, and I've only had for a couple of weeks, but I've watched several things, and they're all very high quality. I don't know, it's worth it. But Netflix, I really wasn't watching, so I just dropped down to whatever I can get for free now.
When they're Netflix, I will definitely say Netflix documentary content has slipped, mostly because it's hard to get good documentary content. There aren't a lot of good documentary platforms out there, so the content is thin and everybody's trying to get something, and what you end up with is like nobody having much.
Well, yeah, and that's happened. I mean, outside of documentaries with series and TV, series and movies, because now practically every studio or whatever that's producing content now has their own streaming service. I mean, HBO,
It's become
Cinemax,
cable.
Stars. It's become cable again. Disney. Everybody. It's balkanization of streaming services.
Right.
So
and
I don't want 50 streaming services. I liked it when everything was on Netflix.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Full circle. I mean, cable was cable before it had advertisements on it, right?
Yeah.
There was no advertisements on cable. That was before my time, but cable didn't have ads.
Yeah.
And then it had ads. Then you had pirating. Then you had Netflix, and now you have this bullshit. And now, I mean,
the nice thing is now we finally have, because we've always wanted like true a la carte cable. Now that streaming services have come back to be cable again, we finally have it, because we don't have to buy multiple streaming services if we don't want.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? That true a la carte cable service that we're getting now in today's dollars is costing us about the same as what cable did before.
Yeah.
Probably.
So like you wanted it, and you know what you're not getting? You're not getting 16 home shopping networks because you don't need them anymore. You've got Amazon.
I want them. Yeah, I have Amazon. I have all the stupid ads I get in Facebook Facebook and all that shit.
Right.
Speaking of Facebook and shitty online,
I don't know why that platform just doesn't die.
yeah, I don't know why either.
uh,
But like the wishes of the world and like these like the Alibabas and like the garbage of the internet like platforms. There was a thing where I think it was Wish was probably the number one. They were selling Glock auto sears
Oh yeah.
from China for like
Uh-huh.
$100, and these things were like, all of a sudden it's like holy shit! Like there's like 5,000 machine guns that were shipped to the United States.
Oh yeah. That and the fuel filters.
Oh yeah, the fuel filter silencers. I think the silencers are still. They don't care about the silencers.
Oh no, they'll show up at your door for that as well.
Will they really? Yeah, they might.
But for the Glock dropping auto sears, those are really
Oh
easy
my god! They
put
knock
in.
on the door. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, because there's just like there's that back plate.
Yeah,
on
that's
the
all
slide.
it is. You just have it's a back plate and it keeps the
So there's like
sear from dropping.
there's that little
yeah
plastic plate that's in there. You just
Yeah,
pop that out and you put it
pop
in
that
there,
out.
and yeah,
Oh my
it's
God.
like a force reset trigger.
Yeah, and you get a machine gun just like that. Yeah.
I mean, I want one, but I don't want the ATF to knock on my door. So
Yeah. And it's like that was like they're still out there. I mean, they have to be still out there.
oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. But whatever. They should put that back on Amazon.
Oh, that's good stuff.
I
I haven't looked at the Alibaba site in a while. It's developed.
I bought some stuff off there not too long ago, early COVID. Bought some glassware off there.
I remember. It's like,
Yeah.
well done, sir. Well done.
I'm actually looking at both Alibaba and AliExpress. I'm looking for a vertical axis wind turbine.
Oh.
I mean, I can buy the exact same one I can buy off of Amazon for, I don't know, 2/3, 3/4 of the price. I just have to wait a month for it.
Yeah.
Instead of getting it in a couple of days. Although half the ones that are listed on Amazon, those two, it's going to take weeks. It ships in July. Well, I'll wait a little bit longer and get it directly from China. But for like $2,000, you can get a 2 kilowatt, or for like $1,000, you can get a 2 kilowatt vertical axis wind turbine. I might need a couple of them.
Yeah, material cost on that is
Pretty low.
Probably-
The only thing that's
probably about like there's some stuff in there, bearings,
bearings are cheap.
machining on the blades. Like, yeah, you could get the
they're
material cost down to like
fiberglass.
$500. But I don't know that I'd want it. Like, I want a material cost right up around $750 for that. And then like shipping and profit margin. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'll figure it
Ooh.
out because I want to do a
Yes, you will.
combined solar and wind. Because it's pretty windy by me, I might as well take advantage of it. And if I'm going to build out a system, I might as well. I can't do things in moderation. It's just not in my soul.
Anybody that's met you knows that's true.
So, or I'll do something for 120% and then lose interest in a week.
That's also true.
Yeah.
It's what we appreciate about you, Brian. I mean, the nice thing about these vertical access ones is like you can paint the blades different colors. And
Oh
then
yeah,
it's
you
like,
can even get them in different like originally
Right.
in different colors. Yeah.
yeah, like, get the red, white, and blue. And then when your neighbor's like, what are you putting up? And you're like, America. And they walk away going, that's a patriot right there.
Well, the nice thing about the vertical ones is more power at lower speeds
Right.
in general.
Yep.
In high winds, I think it's kind of a horse apiece, but
Yeah, see some of these prices, I'm like, that cannot be right.
yeah, sometimes things are. A lot of them come in like bundles with like charge controllers and that kind of stuff. I probably wouldn't do that, although you do need a charge controller that's designed for wind. Just because most
Sure.
of these, they'll be like a 3-phase permanent magnet. It's different. You can't just hook it up to the same charge controller you'd use for solar, but a lot of the charge controllers can do both. But
Right.
it's different kind of input.
Right. Variability's a lot different. Output's a
Yeah.
lot different.
But I'd rather get so instead of getting a little charge controller with each turbine I get and a charge controller for multiple banks of solar, I would want to get one large, decent charge controller that does everything I need and just add on what I want to.
Right. Oh.
Because
Well,
man, two of those 2,000-watt turbines and I don't know, maybe 1,200-watt panels. I mean that would take care of a significant amount of my power utilization.
certainly in
Most of
summer.
the day.
Yeah.
Certainly in summer, yeah. I mean, most of it I mean, 4K of it would be from wind, which, I mean, we have some pretty decent winds around here.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, you're probably going to see, if you got a 2K turbine, most times you're going to see like 1 to 1.2K out of it.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Yeah, no, like
my
perfectly fine.
$800 power bills in winter need to go away.
Well, and in
But I
winter,
mean, I'm
you're going
taking
to see
steps
more.
for that as well. Oh yeah.
I mean, just the thermals off of your house.
Mhm.
May as well get some of it back.
Yeah, this is true.
All right. Well,
All right.
gentlemen.
Right, yeah, we are past the 2-hour mark, and it is time to wrap it up and call it a day.
Sweet. Well, Jesse, thanks for hanging out, man. As always.
Do you think we should do a midweek show to cover those other topics, or bump it for a week? We've never
yeah,
done
I think,
a midweek show.
You
You think about it, and you get
Yeah.
back to me.
Yeah. I'll think
'Cause you have
about
the strictest schedule.
it. That I do.
Guess
I've,
he didn't have shit going on.
I have stern taskmasters.
So yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Although Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, no, Wednesday, Thursday this week, I'm gonna have changes. But
Okay.
figure something out.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do. We'll
Yeah.
chat. Maybe we'll have a
At least
midweek.
consider it.
Otherwise, maybe we'll have a very special Memorial Day session.
Oh,
You know,
That's true.
we'll see.
perhaps. Yep.
All right. Well,
Well-
thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Have a good
Sure.
week.
Take care.
We'll see you when you see you. We'll see ya when we see ya. All right. Bye.
Bye.